three. Terrence Ross just did this over the Manimal.
Oh, Canada. Oh, Canada. Oh, Canada.
What's happening, Raptorland? Sean here as the Raps get over the Steph Curry hump and beat the Warriors 104-98. On this episode, we're going to break down the Raptors' win over Golden State, as well as look at a center who's doing things in this league we haven't seen in a very long time, taking his team to heights no one thought would be attainable. This is the Raptors Wrap-Up. Steph Curry was 7-0 in his career against the Raps, including overcoming a 26-point second-half deficit earlier in the year in Golden State. The Raps got the revenge at home, coming back in the fourth to hold on to third place in the East despite the absence of Terrence Ross. It seems like we always start by talking about Jonas Valanciunas, and this episode will be no different. With a tough task on his hands in veteran and very physical big man Andrew Bogut, Jonas was up to the task early, scoring 8 points on 4 of 4 shooting with 3 boards. Despite the inconsistent minutes, which has to be frustrating for the young big man, he continues to play pretty well in the first quarter of games. Considering the second-year player is only 21 years old with no NCAA experience, I think we have to be fairly satisfied with his development to this point. The Raptors aren't used to playing a unique team like the Warriors that can spread the floor with shooters while also fielding proven big men down low like David Lee and Bogut. It showed early as the Raptors had some trouble adjusting defensively as two-time All-Star David Lee had 10 points in the first on his way to a 20-point 11-board game. The Raptors trailed 28-25 after one. Toronto caught up to the speed of the game in the second. After falling behind by 8 early, Grievous Vasquez did what the Raptors need from him with Kyle Lowry struggling with his shot, and that's provide instant offense. Vasquez went on a 10-0 run all on his own to give the Raps the lead. Over that stretch, Toronto also held Golden State without a point for more than 2.5 minutes. Vasquez is very hit and miss, as we know. His quick 10 points were the hit, but he added just 2 points the rest of the game on 5 of 13 shooting and 2 of 7 from 3. It's going to be interesting to see how Vasquez does come the playoffs. He's certainly not afraid to take any shot, and he can bail the team out when the offense gets stagnant. But he can also shoot the team right out of the game as he can fall too in love with his jumper. His situation will be an interesting one to keep an eye on down the stretch. The emergence of the Raps defense in the second was the key. Closing out on shooters and not allowing open looks for the high-octane Warriors offense saw them shoot just 7 of 20 from the field in the second, and Steph Curry only 1 of 2 from distance. Toronto also used an active DeMar DeRozan to control the quarter on the offensive end. DeMar was an astounding 6 of 6 from the charity stripe and finished with 10 points and 2 assists in the second as Toronto took a 55-50 lead into the half. In the third, Toronto went cold, going almost 5 minutes without a field goal. This was highlighted by Kyle Lowry, who was 1 of 5 shooting in the quarter. Lowry may be starting to hit a bit of a wall as he's been in a shooting slump as of late. The thing that Kyle hangs his hat on is his effort. He's always a great creator for the rest of the offense, he'll play hard defense, and is just an all-around smart player. He makes wily veteran plays, drawing contact and smart fouls on both ends of the court, as evidenced by leading the league in charges by a wide margin. Eventually, the Raps will need Kyle to find his shot, but as long as he keeps putting up big assist numbers and positively contributing in every other asset of his game, Toronto can ride out his shooting slump. G-State looked to their leader to spark a big third quarter. Steph Curry took over, leaving his mark on the third with 14 points and 2 dimes. Curry was all over the court, knocking down threes, getting in the lane, and drawing fouls on his way to a 34-point, 4-rebound, and 7-assist night. Curry just seems to be a player the Raptors have trouble with time and time again, but they did manage to do one thing well against him, which we'll get to in the fourth. On to the final frame, where Golden State led 78-75. After exchanging buckets, the Raps made their move with 8.5 minutes left. Toronto used strong shooting to go on an 11-0 run and take a 92-86 lead. Over that stretch, the Raptors pounded the glass, allowing 0 second chance points for the Warriors while only missing one shot themselves over the 2.5-minute stretch. Toronto turned to their all-star DeMar DeRozan to shut the door, and his hands were all over the fourth. DeMar had 12 points, 1 assist, 2 rebounds, and 1 steal as the Raps never looked back on their way to the 104-98 win. DeMar had one of his toughest tasks of the season going up against all-star and lockdown wing defender Andre Iguodala. But he was more than up to the challenge, finishing with 32 points on an efficient 10 of 16 shooting with 4 rebounds and what now seems like the norm, 6 assists. DeMar has obviously taken every aspect of his game to a new level this season, but to do it against the likes of Iguodala has to make Raptors fans positively giddy. In my mind, DeMar has locked himself into the 3rd best shooting guard in the league spot, behind James Harden and Dwayne Wade. The Raps closed this one out thanks to good ball movement as they got open looks on their way to shooting 10 of 19 from the field in the 4th. When the game mattered most, the Raptors were able to frustrate Steph Curry as he uncharacteristically turned the ball over 4 times in the 4th, killing any chance the Warriors had of making a late comeback. A couple of player notes. Klay Thompson struggled all game long. The attention paid to Curry saw Thompson get plenty of open looks, but he shot just 4 of 15 from the field for 12 points, 3 rebounds, and 0 assists. He was the X factor needed for Golden State in this game, and his poor shooting greatly contributed to Golden State coming up short. This season was supposed to be a breakout for Klay, but the 24-year-old has hardly, if at all, improved. The Warriors also got nothing from their bench. None of their players had a positive plus-minus rating and combined for only 20 points. With Golden State getting 24 points from Bogut, Iguodala, and Thompson, they desperately needed offense from their second unit, which is known for their streaky shooters. The fact they got so little from their backups was simply too much to overcome. With Terrence Ross out, the Raptors surprisingly turned to scarcely used Landry Fields to start at small forward. Fields hasn't seen much court time due to injury and ineffectiveness. Considering the lack of playing time lately, you have to be happy with Fields' work against a solid Warriors team. He played 25 minutes, scoring 8 points with 6 rebounds on a nice 4 of 5 shooting. Fields definitely knew his role and didn't do anything that wasn't needed from him, being active on the glass and taking only makeable shots. With Steve Novak being a one-trick pony and a liability on defense, and John Solomons in a major slump, Fields might be able to parlay this into some legitimate playing time once Ross returns. Just to follow up on Solomons, his shot has gone in the tank lately. He shot 1 of 5 in this game for 2 points, and what's a bigger concern is that a lot of his misses have been wide open looks. I can't believe I'm saying this, but due to these factors, I wouldn't mind seeing what the Raps can get out of Fields at the backup 3 spot. If it doesn't work out, they can always turn back to the veteran Solomons as the playoffs approach. I mentioned Jonas off the top and briefly wanted to touch on him again. JV had that strong start out of the gate playing 9 minutes in the first, but he didn't get back in the game until the 4:24 mark of the second quarter, on his way to playing just 23 total minutes. After the first, Jonas appeared to lack confidence. He made bad decisions in the post and turned the ball over 3 times, finishing with just 2 points and 2 rebounds the rest of the game. Dwayne Casey has been tough on Valanciunas and clearly fallen in love with his small ball lineup, using a combination of Amir Johnson, Patrick Patterson, and Tyler Hansbrough at his 4 and 5 spots. It's a tricky thing the Raptors have to manage. They like their small ball lineup, but it's been at the expense of Jonas's growth, which has been stunted by the inconsistent minutes. It's working right now, but if the Raps go up against a team with a proven center in the playoffs, say Indiana or Washington, it could be too much for Toronto to ask of Jonas to play extended minutes come the playoffs. So that's a situation we're going to have to monitor. And finally, I mentioned off the top that we were going to talk about a center that's doing things in this league that we haven't seen for a very long time. And so I felt it was important to draw some attention to Joakim Noah. Noah put on a clinic in front of a national audience on Sunday against the Knicks. He put up 13 points, 12 rebounds, and an otherworldly 14 assists. To put that into context, no center has put up 14 assists in a game in 35 years. Noah has put up 11 plus assists in a game 4 different times this season and has forced his way into top 5 MVP consideration. Since December 19th, 3 weeks before the trade of Luol Deng, the Bulls have gone 24-10 under the leadership of Noah. Everyone thought the Bulls were headed for the lottery after losing 2 of their best 3 players in Rose to injury and Deng by trade, but the Bulls now find themselves just a half game back of Toronto for 3rd spot in the East. The growth of Noah has been exciting to watch. We haven't seen a center with his kind of vision since Vlade Divac, one of the best centers of all time. The Bulls have turned to running their offense through Noah while also leaning on him to anchor their defense on top of him being their emotional leader on the court. All it's done is see the Bulls play their best basketball since winning 62 games and finishing 1st in the East behind Derrick Rose's MVP season in 2010. Noah is on his way to a first-team All-NBA selection and a matchup the Pacers and Heat certainly don't want any part of come the second round of the playoffs. That is going to do it for this edition of the Raptors Wrap-Up. Follow me on Twitter at Raptors Wrap-Up, where I give my thoughts on everything that's going on with the Raptors and around the association, as well as live tweeting Raptors games. If there's anything you'd like to see me talk about in this vlog, just let me know and I'll do my best to work it in. On Twitter, at ABomb43, asked me to talk about Brian Colangelo and him saying at the Sloan Conference that he was actively tanking during the 2011-2012 season. So that's something I'm going to discuss in our next episode, which might be one that's just generally NBA related, or if not, will be a preview of the Raptors-Kings game on Friday. So until then, thanks for watching.